Well, everybody, it's official. The end of an era, the end of Japan holding a stranglehold over beginner motorcycles. They're doomed, I tell you, because Triumph has officially gotten into the beginner bike game. And with the rest of just the plethora of excellent beginner motorcycles, boy, Japan really has some work to do if they want to catch up. We're going to go talk about these new Triumph bikes. We're going to talk about the rest of these just awesome beginner motorcycles coming out and what Japan needs to do to get back on top. Let's hit the road and talk about it.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the show. And hyperbole aside, I do think that these Triumphs are, boy oh boy, are they going to be a huge success for the company. And not only that, I think that there is some serious pressure put on Japanese manufacturers with these Indian-made motorcycles and Chinese-made motorcycles as well. I think that there's so much pressure laid down on Japan that they just have to answer. They can't continue same old, just keeping doing the same thing that they've always done. It's not going to work. But we're going to come back to that in a little bit. Let's first talk about these new Triumph 400s. So, what are the details as we know them on these motorcycles? Well, at time of filming, these bikes were leaked, revealed, hinted. I'm not entirely sure because there's a lot of information out. It's not all 100% confirmed as far as I know, but they're out there. There's footage of them out there. I guess they're doing a full, event for them coming out next week, but basically everybody released their news articles at the exact same time, which makes me several days late by the time you're seeing this, but I still want to talk about it. So, first and foremost, what are we looking at? Well, there are two motorcycles entering the beginner bike category. These are the Speed 400. I'm so used to saying Speed Twin, but it's a Speed 400 because it only has one cylinder. And then they have the Scrambler X, the 400X. Both of these motorcycles are the smaller brothers of the 900s and then the 1200s on top of that, because Triumph has, much like Japan, they've got a very defined line of growth. So if you start on the Speed, you can go up to the Speed Twin, then you can go up to the 1200s, all the way up to something like the Thruxton. Same with the Scrambler. You've got your Scrambler 900 as your step up, and then you've got the big boy Scrambler 1200 XC and XE. It's very difficult for me to enunciate that in a helmet, but you've got both of those as growth options, which is really cool. And it used to be that Triumph didn't have a great entry point, and these 900s, they're not the most expensive bikes in the world, but they are expensive nonetheless, and not a lot of people want to run out and get a super premium expensive starter bike when they can just get a nice cheap new one. And that's what these are. These are great options for somebody who wants to get started in the Bonneville family. As such, both of these motorcycles look just like a standard Bonneville. Even down to the engine. I was thinking when they put a single in that it was going to take away some of the character and the look of the Triumph Bonneville motor, because it's a very unique motor design. The way the cases are designed and the way they're screwed together, it's very Triumph and it's very identifiable. And with these Bonnies, you totally see it. You totally see the lineage between these motors. And that's because these motors were designed, they were developed in England. They were developed by Triumph. They are then going to be built by Bajaj in India. So Bajaj is making bikes for, I believe, KTM and BMW. Royal Enfield makes their own motorcycles, but Bajaj has been making bikes forever. They make, I don't know if it's millions a year or tens of hundreds of thousands. I mean, they make so many motorcycles every year, and I know people are going to be like, reliability made in India. Guys, trust me, if anybody could screw together a motorcycle, it's folks in India. They do it every day. It's a point of pride. It's like, you know, people hold up the American flag and be like, yeah, Harley, yeah, Royal Enfield, same deal.
Hold up, y'all. I interrupt this tirade to bring you a hot deal. Monday, July 3rd through July 5th, Cardo is offering 20% off their communicators with the code SPITE. If you're on the fence, this is the perfect time to upgrade your ride with the best-in-class communicator. It's got long battery life, high-quality speakers, and DMC mesh connections so you can connect and reconnect with your buddies with ease. I've always got a Cardo on when I go for a ride, and now's your chance to score one on the cheap with the code SPITE for 20% off July 3rd through the 5th. All right, let's get back to it.
So, the real concern with reliability, I guess, is just going to be down to, it's a first model year motorcycle. There are probably going to be some quirks, but I don't think it's going to explode on you. I don't think you're going to be out there riding and suddenly it's going to drop a rod. You know, they're great. They're going to be well-built motorcycles. My real question has nothing to do with reliability. It has to do with the character. Is it going to feel like a Triumph? And specifically, what I'm talking about here is the fueling. If you've ever ridden a Triumph stock, their fueling is the best in the industry. No other motorcycle in the modern era can compete with Triumph's fueling and their throttle feel. It is as close to perfect as a modern Euro 5, whatever, Euro 6 compliant motorcycle is. They're the best in the business when it comes to stock throttle feels. And I really would hate to see that get sacrificed. I really hope that because it's developed in Britain, developed by Triumph, that they will have sorted that out, and basically they're just like, okay, here's the fuel map you need to make this perfect, and they're just going to send that to the factory in India, and they'll just upload it to the ECU. You know, that would be great. I would really love to see that premium feel, because you get on a Triumph and oh boy, do you feel it. You feel it the second you sit in the saddle, the second you turn it on and you hear the way that the exhaust note is tuned. They're special motorcycles, guys. They really are. I'm not a huge fan of Triumph. I don't choose to ride their motorcycles, but when I do, game recognized game, man, they really do some good work. Some more technical details on this. I think they're right around 40 horsepower. I saw a British horsepower number and I saw a PS number, and both of those are wrong. The rest of the world is terrible, and they need to learn how to use stuff that makes sense, like feet. I'm just kidding. No, I think it's about 39 horsepower and about 24 to 28 foot-pounds of torque. It's exactly what you'd expect for about a 398cc thumper, liquid-cooled thumper. Talking DRZ territory. Perfect set for what these bikes are. They're going to be nice and sporty. The wet weight, I believe, is 398. It's possible those are dry, and if they're dry, they are a little heavy. They're a little heavy. But Triumph usually reports dry. I believe we have wet weight numbers on here, and I was kind of hoping to see these a little bit closer to the, you know, 350, 360, 370 mark, fully fueled, since it is a single. But I don't know. They're not super highly tuned sport bikes. They're classic cruiser looking things. So maybe a little bit of extra weight isn't going to be too bad. And frankly, I prefer a slightly heavier motorcycle just because then on the highway at higher speeds, it's more planted. Both of these are pretty great looking motorcycles, and they come with good features too. The biggest thing we don't know is the price point, but I'd kind of expect it to be $55,000 to $6,000 for the Speed, and probably a little bit more because of the scrambler tax for the for the 400X, just because scramblers always are a little bit more expensive. It's possible there's a Triumph tax on here, and we may see them a little bit north of $6,000 for both of them. That'd be a bit of a bummer, but then maybe they're shooting for the premium beginner option. But then one wonders why not just go for the 900. So I'd expect these to be round about $6,000, probably a little under. And boy, oh boy, if they can nail that, these things are going to sell like hotcakes. But I would like to now transition back to that topic I brought up at the beginning. Japan has to respond to this. They can't just allow these companies to catch up and supersede them. I believe that Japan is ceding their ground as the king of the beginner bike space just because they've sat on their laurels forever. It's entirely accurate to say that the Japanese motorcycles, the beginner bikes, were the best in the business. And the argument could be made that they still are, but I think with the increase in quality from competitors from China and now India and sort of Britain by way of India, there are so many great beginner options that allow you to spread out into different styles of motorcycle. Now, when it comes to the Chinese bikes, I do understand people's reticence to get on board with one of those because of labor practices in China. Totally understand, but you can't say the same thing about India, and they're absolutely crushing it down there with their motorcycles. They're just making great bikes. Just look at the Royal Enfields, dude. They're awesome, and they're everywhere because people know they look good, they feel good. And what has Japan brought out recently? Well, they've got the Eliminator 450. Okay. That's about it. Otherwise, it's crickets. It's same old. Like, you look at the R3 and you look at the MT-03. Both of those bikes nowadays are anemically slow. They're cheap, sure, but I don't know, they've been so far superseded by the rest of the competition. And I know that a lot of people are like, oh, well, these bikes are built in Japan, they're more reliable. They're not, though. They're not built in Japan. They're built in Indonesia, they're built in Thailand, they're built in other countries. Yes, the bigger bikes are made in Japan, but I've talked about this before. The XSR 700 is built in freaking France. Japan outsources building to manufacturers. They do exactly what Triumph did, where they developed the bikes in-house and then they sent the specs to the factory in Indonesia or Thailand, and they were like, you build it and then we'll sell it cheap. They can't continue to just sit on their laurels and expect everything to be okay. You look at a bike like the CF Moto 450 SS, and yes, I know a lot of people are going to mention again about the Chinese business practices, but not everybody is as clued into the state of international politics and the labor issues in China. Some people aren't aware of that, and they're going to look at a motorcycle sitting on a dealership floor and they're going to be like, that thing looks sweet, look at the TFT dash on there, oh, it started up and it sounds just like an R7, holy cow, and look at that price tag. people are just going to buy the motorcycle because it looks cool and it sounds cool. And Japan is just going to do what Harley did and let everybody take it. And now that I've invoked Harley Davidson's name here at the end of this, everything I'm saying for Japan goes 3 times for Harley Davidson. They do not have a beginner option. Maybe they don't care to. They need to take that 500, or they need to take the 975 Rev Max, make it a 500, and sell it for like 8 or 9 grand. They have to do that. It's okay for it to be a little bit more expensive, but guys, you need a true beginner bike because that 975 is not. It just isn't. It's a very fast, very expensive motorcycle. And I would not feel comfortable selling that to a beginner if I was, if I was at a Harley dealer. And guys, this is where I pass the question off to you. What do you think about these Triumphs? Do you think that they're as exciting as I am? Do you think that they're going to sell as well as I think they will? Or do you think that they're just kind of a flash in the pan, and when people actually ride them, they're going to be like, oh, it's just another motorcycle? And also let me know your thoughts about the state of Japan's beginner bike situation. Do you think that they need to respond to this? Do you think that they need to update their motorcycles to compete, drop prices? Or do you think that if they just stay the course, they're going to be great because they've been good for so long that they've basically, they're not going to lose it now? And while you're down there, guys, don't forget to check out that Cardo flash sale, July 3rd through July 5th. If you use the code SPITE, you'll get yourself 20% off any Cardo, and you'll get a free hat. So click that link down below. I've always got my Cardo right here on my helmet, listening to tunes, not while I'm talking to you, but when I'm out riding, I've got it going. I use this to communicate with Whitney all the time. It's just a super convenient tool, and now you can get one on the cheap. So click that link down in the description below. Use the code SPITE for 20% off your order. Now, well, not now, but the 3rd through the 5th. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.